on the table flower or something?
No. We see all this wood and stuff. No, it's a working room. It's great. Okay.
Okay, so here we are. We are in Delft, and we're in what's the name of the church?
Peace United.
Peace United. We're at the Peace United Church in Delft. This is Bethal Simeon, who I met at the Bethal Poetry Exchange, which was in 2010. I'm Crocky Moses. Bethel is, we met at one of the workshops at the Bethal Poetry Exchange. And he's asked me to show him how to make books. And that's what we're going to do today. We're not going to focus on laying out the book on a computer program. We're just going to focus on the actual book binding and everything that's involved with folding and scoring the book covers and so on. So that's what we're going to do today, and then we'll hopefully along the way get a bit of story of Bethel's story, and what we share in common as writers or poets, if we can call ourselves that. Great. Here is my bag of tricks.
Get the ball rolling.
This is my bag of tricks.
So you've got a lot of tricks there.
Scissors.
Okay.
Here's a bit of possibility.
Alright.
Glue. I don't like branding, so I'm just going to take this on here. But you can make notes of all of that along the way. So as you can see, I mean, this is my bag. It's pretty much everything's in here. And so the point is that this is quite a portable means of producing a book. And I've actually, when I go on tour sometimes, sometimes I don't have space to carry stock of my poetry books. So or sometimes I'm out of stock and I haven't had time to produce stock at home. So sometimes I take all my materials. It's all printed here on the computer. And I just put this in my luggage and then make the books on the road, so to speak. Great. So what I'd like to do is first of all start with the book cover. So we're going to have a bit of fun. I'll give you, just to make it fun, you can choose which one excites you. So this is pre-printed. I think let's not spend too much time. I'll just give you some quick examples. We can even recycle this Jungle Oats box, because sometimes I do that. Sometimes I buy fancy paper, as you can see on this one, or I like to recycle. So just tell me which book cover grabs you, and then we'll work with that.
This one. This one.
That one. Okay,
yeah.
Good. Yeah. So you've got. I've already scored. You can see here. I've already scored that. But perhaps I can just show you. Well, look. I'll show you on this, just so you've got an idea of the actual technique. So this has got one score here already. And then basically I'm just going to show you the technique. I'm not going to show you anything about this dimension yet. So what I've done is I've taken the edge of this knife here. Without the blade, so I'm not using the blade.
What do you call this kind of knife?
Some people call them carpet knives, some people call them an X-Acto knife, some people call them razor blades, because it's razor sharp, but it's a knife, whatever way you look at it. I know it as a carpet knife. Carpet layers use these Stanley knife. Here we go. There's your normal Stanley knife. So I use just the edge there to score this. So I'm holding this fuss, like I'm holding this tight here, and then I score this, keeping it basically perpendicular to this flat surface.
Okay.
So I'm not at this angle like that. I'm putting it down like this and then holding it in that same position right through. So I'm holding it right through with a fair amount of pressure, and then you've got your score line. And then this will form what's called the gutter. So that's going to form the spine of the book cover. And so because you've got a score there, you can bend it into place. You see what I'm doing there?
Yeah.
And then I pull that over, and then I take a piece of scrap paper. So the scrap paper just protects the cover from any dirt from this.
Okay.
Okay. So now we've formed the spine of the book cover.
Okay.
So in this case, if we're recycling this piece of cardboard, you've already got one crease that's already in the cardboard. I'm going to go into a bit more detail about that width, how you determine what that width is. And you notice that I just casually laid my ruler down like that.
Yeah.
And obviously it needs to be parallel. And when I've done bookmaking workshops in the past, I've realized that I've had a lot of experience. It takes quite a bit of time to be able to just lay your ruler down and be able to see with your fine eye that it's parallel. But some people will do it like this, not realizing it's not quite parallel. So that takes some time to develop. Of course, you can measure it and get it precise. You can measure it. Say it's 7 millimeters, which is the common.
Okay.
That's the common width of my spines. It always varies.
7.
It'll vary for each book because the number of pages of each book is what determines the width. Fine. So I would mark 7 millimeters here, and then I would mark 7 millimeters here, and then you would connect those dots, and that's the sure foolproof way of doing it.
Okay.
But the reason I've just done it kind of casually is because I don't believe in things being perfect, because what happens is the more you do this, the more you naturally improve each part of each stage of the bookmaking.
You may have to do it over and over again.
Yeah, and you will, like I've gotten really good at getting a parallel line here, and that's because I've trained my eye, and so I'm encouraging you to rather go that route.
Okay.
To train your eye so that you can, you don't have to be always getting out the ruler, and it's also to trust that things aren't perfect. Things are, when they're made by hand, they've always got a little bit of deviancy or variation.
Yeah.
And then through that you can learn, you can see, I'm actually a bit out there, I can improve that. And then as you get going, then you maybe 2 years down the line, you're producing a book that looks like it was made by a machine. So I'm encouraging you to go through that process so that you can see your development with your hand skills and the finesse that you can actually accomplish through using your hands.
All right.
This is craftsmanship that we're talking about here, and we're not trying to be a machine. We're human beings, and we've got incredible possibility and potential with our hands and our brains and what we've been given. So that's partly the education. It's the learning that can happen here. And when you build finesse in terms of your hands, I believe that impacts on other things. For instance, how you write and the content of what you write. So to go off on a bit of a tangent, I've experienced with my writing, what informs my writing comes from several things. It's not just sitting down and writing.
Yeah, that's true.
I saw a bird and a tree and this is not... No, it comes from dancing. I practice dancing. I'm a musician. I walk in nature. I make things with my hand. All of these things inform ultimately the writing. So that's my perspective. I'm not saying
Yeah, it varies actually,
Yeah.
depending on what the influences.
So that's our book cover. And
No, we just dealt with the spine of the book cover.
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And let me just briefly say here, you can see this is 3 different book covers.
Yeah.
The variations. So it's all the same book. It's Twilight Sunburn. But what I've partly done here is I've just explored and allowed myself to have fun and play with what's available. Okay, so this I'm also recycling. This was from a show where we had cardboard with fluorescent paint. So again, I'm not saying that you have to do it that way at all. I'm just saying that this is what's happened in my approach to the bookmaking.
Okay.
It's just it's to allow people to have different choice. Some people like something fancy and kind of sophisticated. Some people like something that's recycled. Some people like something that's maybe more artistic. So part of the point is that it's also changing.
Okay.
It's not fixed and permanent. It's kind of evolving, and it's got a bit of a story to it. So if I showed you books from the first ones that I made of this edition, and compared them to the ones that I'm making now, they're not entirely different, but there is a bit of variation, and that to me reflects life. Nothing is exactly the same. There might be repetition and patterns, but
it has improved actually.
yeah, there's improvement
tremendously,
and there's also space for it to change. And I think that's, if you look at tolerance, as human beings, I think we struggle to practice tolerance with each other, and I think it's because we're rigid. And so I'm just trying to link themes here and to describe some of the things that have been taught to me through doing this. Inadvertently, I would never have known that that this bookmaking would have taught me about tolerance, for example, and change. So it's part of my approach is allowing and exploring and playing, and mainly allowing to let things show me the way, so to speak, and to try, and sure, you make mistakes and you experiment and you realize, okay, maybe this works, that doesn't work. People like this, they don't like that. It's really, what I have found is it's really hard to tell what people like and don't like, because everyone is so different, and it's unpredictable. You can think, no, this person, they'll definitely like this one, and I'll be completely wrong. So there's so much to learn. That's partly what I'm saying.
All right.
Okay, so we've got the book cover done. Let's move on to what is called correlation.
Correlation.
There's two techniques that I could show you. I'm going to show you the most basic, the most simple technique.
Correlation. You're talking about getting the pages onto the book cover.
Yeah, but let me backtrack. There's 2 techniques.
Okay.
So let me just for the record, so you know that I'm showing you one technique, which is quick, easy, simple, easy to learn. It can get you started anywhere, anytime, as long as you've got a bit of glue.
Okay.
So have you got a blank piece of paper? Or scrap paper even?
Yeah, what about this one?
Brilliant. Okay. So before we do the correlation, I'm going to just briefly touch on the book layout.
Okay.
Okay. So this formatting, I've formatted this whole bookmaking around the A4 sheet.
Okay.
For simplicity's sake, because this is a standard piece of paper. And it's all formatted around printing on this A4 sheet, which is a standard, and folding it in half. So this whole technique is all based around this simple thing that anyone can do. So the folding is just lining up And that doesn't have to be perfect. Again, nothing.
It's perfect.
When I've taught this, I've seen everyone's got different skills, and some people, they've never done this. Even folding. If you take this to some kids, they've never folded a piece of paper
Precision.
Exactly.
Now, I was actually taught that such thing as precision and accuracy in act, particularly with reference to graphic arts and design, that you have to achieve certain degree of precision and accuracy. But then, when you do not achieve it, every work of art has a room for improvement. So eventually, you can equally improve it, but you don't frustrate yourself trying to actually achieve that precision, because, like you just rightly said now, because you're actually putting the dexterity of your hand into play. So you might not always achieve that precision and accuracy.
Yeah, and to expect yourself to achieve that precision right away is also something I would discourage. Really, it's more important to learn the different parts of the technique, so you understand them and then implement it. Make mistakes. I encourage people to make mistakes, not frivolously, obviously, but to allow yourself to make mistakes, whether it's in writing a poem, writing a song. Whenever you're creating something, that's, to me, when I believe it's most important to allow yourself to make mistakes. So the folding. So this is the basis of this.
The interruption. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Okay.
Okay, so this is the basis of this format of bookmaking.
A4.
A4.
And you now have it folded.
Yeah.
So
when you lay out your poetry book, you can use Microsoft Word, which is what I used on this first book.
Okay.
This is my first publication ever, and I didn't have other sophisticated programs like InDesign and so on. So I got into this using the most basic techniques and programs. So when you lay out your poems, you've got to lay out so that you put. Sorry, you've got to start here. You've got to lay out your poem here. This is your second page, third page, and then this would be your fourth page. So it gets page 1, page 2, page 3, and page 4. So what you'll do is you'll lay out, and that I'd have to show you on the computer how to do that. But that's how you want to lay this out, and then print it, and that can prove a little bit mind-boggling. But once you understand it and you've got the knack, then it's a whiz. So you're going to lay out your entire book based on this A4 being folded in half. Okay, so you're going to print these and then form a stack. See, these are all folded A4s. Okay. So if you start from page 1, that's page 1.
Okay.
Page 2, page 3, page 4 is blank. You can see it's labeled page 4. Here's page 5, 6, 7, 8, and then it carries on. So you're basically creating a stack of these folded pages. Now, what's collation is when you order all of those, the entire book's layout, including what I've done here. This is what's unique about this format as well, is the chapter pages.
Okay.
Which is a single sheet, not a folded sheet. It's a single sheet.
Okay.
And in this case here, the style for my book is to have this in a different color paper.
Chapter. Okay.
Yeah. So what I've obviously to print...
Unique. You're making it unique now.
Yeah.
All right.
So this is where there's a bit of a departure.
From the status quo.
Yeah. And again, it's to have fun. It's to play, and it also helps you see. Okay, here's a chapter break. You know, it's not all just the same.
Yeah, that's true.
And what I've done here is I've just obviously printed it and then cut the A4 piece of paper in half. Okay, so this is the whole book collated in the right order, ready to now bind. And just to explain, in terms of what's going to happen with the glue, you've got a fold here, right? Instead of there's two things you can do. You can fold it like we've done here, and then go on top of that, and make that really, really sharp and clean. Okay, that's one thing you can do. Or you can just fold it once, and have it not so crisp. Now this one is not. This is folded once, and it's not so crisp. And what that allows for is more surface area for the glue to grab onto.
Okay.
This one's more crisp and more sharp, so it's got less surface area for the glue to grab onto.
Okay.
So
which one is better?
This one's
the one that allows the glue.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But it doesn't mean that this is wrong.
Okay.
You're going to win both ways. But if you want to be really certain that you've got a book where the spine is really holding, then you would choose this one where it's folded just once. And what I normally do is I fold them once, and then I put them together. And these are all of the folded pages. And then sometimes instead of doing it to that single page, then I do the whole lot together. That's if you really want it to be.
Then you're doing more.
Yeah.
In less time.
So you've got less surface area.
Yeah.
It'll still work, and you'll see that later on. Okay, so that's the collation stage. This is now ready for binding. Previous to this, the way you lay out your book, you've got to make sure that that's absolutely correct, so that your page numbering and the order of that is absolutely correct. And then when you collate, you've got to make sure that you've put your chapter pages in the exact right spot. Okay. I don't want to show that here because that's, I think, fairly obvious, but it's so easy to make a mistake. So you've got to do it methodically. You've got to have, when you collate, you've got to have a stack of your first page, a stack of that, and you've got to make sure you take one of each in the right order.
That enables you to also make quite a number of copies in a limited period of time.
Yeah, you want to do more than just one at a time. I do 10 or 20 in a run. It's more efficient and you get right into it. You don't have to then pack up every time.
Yeah.
So let me stress, make sure you've got that right. Because if there's a page missing once you've bound it, then that book is pretty much, you can't give it to someone because they're going to be missing pages. But look, it's part of the learning. You will make a mistake here and there, and you learn from it, and that's the whole point as well. It teaches you to pay attention. Every aspect of the book making, you have to pay attention. Whether you're using a sharp blade or scoring the book cover, you've got to be very focused.
Yes.
So it's a good way of training your mind to focus on one thing. And when you're using a knife, you can't afford to be cutting yourself every second cut. So it's quite a therapy in a way. It's kind of quite a Zen sort of activity. Okay, moving on. So we've gone through the collation stage. We've looked at the chapter breaks. We've looked at the layout, and we're now ready to bind, and that's the second stage. So the first stage was the book cover, which you're preparing. The second stage is the collation. You've already done the printing. It's the folding and getting the page order correct, and gathering them all into one stack, ready for binding. So that's the second stage. Okay, and just for example, if you want to, before you actually do your poetry book, I used to practice making blank books. So I would fold these, and I would just practice. So what you can do is, to start with, is you can just take some scrap paper, blank paper, and you can practice folding that, getting that together, and then at the end you've got a blank book which you can use as a notebook, or you can give it to someone as a gift.
Okay.
So that's something that you can do to practice, and you still come out with a result.
Definitely.
Okay, so we're going to be binding.
I just wanted to know, before you fold it into this form, you must have printed on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely before.
You must have done the layout on the computer.
Yeah.
And before you now fold it into this format.
Yeah.
All right.
I didn't allow you really enough time to like look at that. Let's go into some of the actual poems so you get a sense. So here's the page 1. Then you get the imprint page. There's a dedication. It's blank. Then you get the table of contents. A quotation, and then the book starts. You get the chapter break, and then the first poem. So that's page 11. Okay, so you've got page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Not 4 pages here, it's only 2. So this is page 9 and 10 on the reverse. That's quite important. Okay. So page 9, and then on the back is 10. It's not printed.
Even the chapter page is numbered as well.
Yeah, you can if you want.
Counted as well.
Yeah, definitely.
All right.
Yeah. So you got 9 and 10. Now page 11, page 12, page 13, 14. So that just gives you let's just show you again so you can get a sense of the layout. So if you're printing that on the computer, if you're laying that out, it becomes quite a tricky thing. First of all, that's landscape, whereas this is called, if it's up this way, if you're laying that out on the computer, that's called portrait.
Okay.
So as far as in the program, you're going to want to set your page settings to what's called landscape. Then it becomes tricky. Like, how do you get this on the page while that's also there, and so forth. So that's a whole nother topic.
This has to do with the line spacing there.
Yeah, this has to do partly here with setting tabs, but what are called tabs.
Okay.
But then there's also, you're right, you've got line spacing.
Okay.
Page numbering is another issue. And then the way that you're able to put these words on the same line as this. So laying that out, there's different techniques. And obviously there's sophisticated professional programs that you can use that do this very simply, like quick sticks, and you're laughing. So that's a whole other topic of conversation that I'd have to show you actually at a computer.
Right.
But it's just to show you, to give you an idea of, like, it looks a bit odd because how do you do that? And then when you print it, normally, it goes through the printer and it comes out. So it's a bit of puzzle work, is what I'm saying. And you've got to get that right. You've got to get your book laid out absolutely right. And it'll take a few printing runs and cross-checking before you're actually ready to print your book. I mean, to bind your book.
Okay.
Because you don't want to print 40 books worth of all your pages and then find out that page 36 isn't right, because then you've printed all of that paperwork for 40 books. You see what I'm saying? So
you waste.
You waste, yeah. So you've got to get it absolutely right. And that's why you can do a mock-up first. Lay it out, print it once, print enough for one copy, fold it, bind it, check it. So that, I can't emphasize that enough. Make sure that you get the layout absolutely right before you're ready to print. However many copies. Imagine if you did 100 or 500 copies, you'd be in big trouble. You're financing this yourself, so you can't afford to.
And landscaping is the way to go.
Landscape is the term given to this layout of the page, and that's a standard term.
Definitely.
Same with portrait. That's this way. And most documents when you're working are in portrait. Any letters or legal documents are all in portrait. But the simplicity is that you're using a standard page size, A4, which all computer programs have that in there as a standard option. Obviously you've got other options for page sizes. Okay, so again, I can't emphasize enough to make sure you've got the layout absolutely correct. And you can see here I've put in doodles, and let's just quickly jump forward, having fun with the layout. It's different from that, where it's lined up against the margin. So you can have fun. You can find your own ways. Each poem will speak to you in its own way. So just to give you an idea, and it's again
lavish it with some style as well.
Yeah, play and let it speak.
Not really sticking to a particular conventional way of getting it done, but you can infuse some style into it and bring some degree of uniqueness to bear on it as well.
Yeah. And again, let's look at something that's so easy to overlook. It's just the actual paper.
Okay.
This paper is recycled. It was fairly cheap.
Okay.
In fact, it was one of the cheapest options.
Did you recycle them yourself?
This I didn't recycle myself.
Okay.
This is a locally produced recycled paper.
Okay.
So again, I play around. Let's have a look at. Here's a book that's just in white, and I've used the chapter pages with that recycled paper. So I'm playing. I just want to show you one other one if I've got it. Nope, I didn't bring it. No. So sometimes I use this type of paper, which is also a recycled paper.
Okay.
And it's also locally produced and very cheap.
Okay.
So
how much does it go for?
If I'm not mistaken, I think that's 2018 or 5 cents a sheet.
Okay.
I think when I last bought, but I haven't bought stock for at least a year. So obviously prices can go up and down. I'm very sorry I haven't brought a book made with this, because this is my favorite. But anyways, the point is that you can play around with different colors or different.
Which do you really think has a mass appeal?
I think
sometimes it's the color of the paper.
Certainly, with what I'm doing, I've found that people really like the white is not popular. People prefer something that's got a bit of color and a bit of texture.
Okay.
And obviously, because it's recycled, that's also environmentally friendly. That appeals to a lot of people. But look, for each publication, it'll always be different and unique.
Okay.
Cool. Okay, this is actually the thing I would have liked to have taken more time on, not rushing, but I'll.
No.
Okay, so we've got our stack of pages collated, ready for binding. The first thing that you need to do is drop them down.
Okay.
And you take these bull clips, which are quite strong.
Bull clip.
Oh, do you want to stop?
Ready.
We're ready for binding.
Okay.
The last stage before binding is you put in what's called an in leaf.
An in leaf.
In leaf, yeah.
Okay.
And I'm recycling, believe it or not. I'm recycling old. This was a coffee packet for coffee beans. Okay, so that's what becomes the first page. Actually, it's not numbered as page 1, but it's called the in leaf. Okay. So I showed you this technique where I'm going to actually do this first. Okay, so you've got that in position. You place your in leaf.
What's the purpose of placing the in leaves on them? To keep them neat.
I wish I had a finished book, because whenever you open the first page of a book is always a blank page.
Okay.
It's called the in leaf. Sorry guys, this isn't working. Stop rolling. Okay, so you slam that down to make sure all the pages are flush. And you can look there, see, make sure they're all basically at the bottom, none of them are stuck up.
Okay.
And then you put what's called the in leaf.
Can you use anything as the in leaf?
Yeah, again, you can have fun. I try and color coordinate. And slam that down again. Hold it like this into place. Then you put the bowl clip in position. So you've got one bowl clip and then 2 bowl clips. Okay, so that's holding this. It's holding that flush. Okay, and you can again just check: is there any pages that are not flush, that aren't participating? Then you're actually ready for gluing. Okay, and here's our book cover that we've prepared, scored. And to backtrack again, this, if you squeeze that together, not too tight, but if you squeeze it just moderate pressure, you'll get an idea of what the width of your spine needs to be. So I would measure that to be roughly, again, 7 millimeters,
okay,
which I know from before. So that's the dimension of this spine here, okay, is 7 millimeters. And you can for a beginner, I would make it 8 millimeters for an allowance, because you're learning. But ultimately, when you're perfecting it, you'll want it to be quite flush. So we're ready for gluing now. And I'm going to use an epoxy, an industrial strength epoxy.
Epoxy. Okay.
So with this particular one, you use 1 part, equal. So one equal part to 1 equal part. And you pour that out, and then you mix it. And that's what I'm going to do with one of these sticks here. So here's my spine. I'm going to do it in the spine. I'm going to do it not right up to the page. I'm just going to do it a bit before. Now the amount that you do is also important, but for beginners, I tell them to start with, say, that amount that I've shown you there. You don't actually need to use this amount of glue, but just for demonstrations purposes. Okay. Again, this is something that you can improve and refine. So I'm going to pour an equal amount of this. I think this is the bonding agent, or is it the other way around? So roughly, as best as I can, an equal amount. This also takes a bit of practice. And I finished there. I don't go right to the edge because the book doesn't go right to the edge. I only need glue.
Okay.
And then we start mixing vigorously. That's really important. You've got about 4 minutes, a little bit longer, to play with in terms of mixing this before it becomes seriously active. But this has got to be mixed well, and the thing is to not worry too much about it going outside of the spine, out of the creases of the spine. And then obviously you want to get the glue well mixed so that the chemical reaction can happen. And just for an update, I'm trying to move towards finding an eco-friendly resin, which I know are out there. I just haven't been able to access here in South Africa. So this has got to be well mixed for it to bond properly.
Okay.
And I wouldn't take any shortcuts in that.
Okay. Do you use just any kind of material to glue, to bind the book?
You can use, for example, you could use a normal wood glue. It just takes much longer and is not always as strong as you'd think.
Okay. Which would you say is the best, the strongest of them all?
Well, this is definitely really strong. I mean, this is industrial strength epoxy.
What do you call it again?
It's Pratley's.
Okay.
There are, like I said, there are other options.
Okay.
This is now ready to drop in, and you're not under terrible pressure to get that mixed, and you can relax. This will be nice and sticky and ready to grab the pages, even if I sat and spoke for another minute. So basically I hold that up like this. I'm going to drop this in, and then actually with quite a bit of pressure squeeze it into the glue, and then I'm going to pull it towards me. So I'm going to drop it in like this, and then I'm going to move it towards me. So I'm actually spreading the glue, and it's quite sticky, so it's quite difficult to move, which is a good sign. It means the glue is grabbing. And you can see that this is flush now with the book cover. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get up close. I'm grabbing it with my fingers, and I'm pushing down with quite a bit of pressure. So that's basically in place. And then I take these off. And then the last thing I do is I hold this with quite a bit of pressure here and just gently squeeze into the spine to spread the glue into the pages. So just gently, not too hard. And you must have clean fingers as well. You could have a page here where you're just doing this, but I want you to be able to see what I'm doing. So I'm just gently, not too hard.
Okay.
And that's squeezing the glue into position, but holding here really firmly, because you don't want this to move the position of the pages. Okay. And you notice I've only done it to here because we're going to trim this off. Now, keep this, just really hold this into position. You don't want this to warp or move or get be banged out of position. And then you let that rest there. And that's going to need to sit for about 5 minutes.
Okay.
So we're going to let that rest for 5 minutes. And we're going to just hold this into position like that. It's all a bit messy right now, but... So that's going to bond and fix. We don't want to let that wait too long, because then we won't be able to trim the edges. We won't be able to cut through that glue, it's so strong. So we're going to wait about 5 minutes, and then it'll still be a little bit soft that we can trim it. And the trimming's the final stage.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll start by taking it.
Okay.
The blade. I've got a knife, a card. Okay, ready? Okay, so that's been sitting there for 5 minutes, and now we're ready for trimming.
Trimming.
So we're gonna trim this off, and trim this off here, and then we'll finally trim along there, in line with the page numbers. Okay, so let's start with the top. Again, I just check in here to make sure there's no serious deviation, and I've got an idea that it's basically along that line. And I take a piece of scrap paper to cover the book, so I don't, get my greasy hands on it. I put my ruler in position, and again, this is where you'll develop good hand-eye coordination. And you'll develop a strong sense with your eye where, so that you do it parallel. This is a bigger carpet knife, or a standing knife. That's locked into position. Now hold this tight, and don't put this finger too close to the spine. You want to be gentle with your spine right now because it's still bonding. So hold there and right there. Hold it quite fast, quite a bit of pressure. Not too much so that you're shaking and that you're going to like rip your knife over there. Just with enough pressure that it'll hold the blade into position. And you're going to do several cuts, so allow yourself time. So I'm going to go straight down, cut through the spine, holding it perpendicular so that you don't cut at an angle. Again, fair amount of pressure. And this is where this takes time. You don't want to slip the knife up here past your thumb or any fingers. So you've got to be concentrating. Hold that down. Okay, I'm going to move a bit faster now because we're getting to the end. And we're nearing the end, the bottom. Okay, not quite. And that should be it. Nope. Okay, and I should have told you that this is it's about nearly 2 millimeters thick board. So you can use anything. So there you can see you've got a nice flush spine.
Yes, it's really flush.
And it's nearly, you can see there's a bit of an angle, but that's fine. That's human.
It is.
Made by human hands. Okay, and then
it's comparable to what you get in the shops. That's what.
Oh, thank you.
Then we mention.
Okay, again, we're gonna trim the bottom of that line there. And I don't think I went through. No, we're safe. So I haven't damaged your table.
No, you wouldn't.
Okay, ruler in place. Now this is a bit trickier because the spine is on this side. Okay.
You really need a great deal of diligence here.
Yeah. So that's locked in. So again, I can't stress. You got to really be paying attention and keep this blade down, not at an angle. If it's at an angle, you can see this line there on the ruler. I actually did that, and that's where the danger of damaging or cutting yourself can happen. So you got to keep it down and keep it focused.
And apply the pressure on it.
And then this here on the spine, you're cutting down. I should have maybe moved a bit. I'm going to put the blade a little bit more out. And then down again. Don't know if you can tell, but the glue, you can get a sense that the glue is just soft enough. So we left it the perfect amount of time. If you leave it too long, you can still cut through it, but it is really quite difficult, and you're going to be sweating. There we go. Yeah,
it's flush.
And there's you You can see the glue
Yeah.
it's gone into in between the pages nicely.
Yes.
Okay, last bit of binding is this. So we've got to decide where is it going to be. So it's actually got to be there. This is just a bit of guesswork, but you actually want to be quite accurate. So if that's the back, and I'm just going to make a small notch on that side there. And you can, if you need to, you can mark that with a pen. Again, I'm not perfect. I'm just gonna have my cover in place. There's the notch. And it's parallel to this edge. And off we go. Again. So we're on the straightaway now. We're coming into the finish line, but you can still make mistakes. You've got a long stroke here, so you've got to hold it. You've really got to, again, pay attention. Keep it perpendicular. It's even good to stand up. It takes less energy. And it's easier to hold your blade
when you're standing.
Yeah. In fact, I would encourage that. It's also safer.
It is.
It's less likely.
Convenient. It's more convenient as well.
And there we have it. Now, before you rush and go, Mom, Dad, I made a book. You've actually got to let this set properly for at least another 10-15 minutes.
Okay.
So and what I would do is just, I just leave them sitting for another 10-15 minutes. But
looks great.
See, this is what you shouldn't do right away.
Okay.
Yeah.
You shouldn't.
Yeah, you've got to let it bond.
Sorry.
I meant to.
I'm really excited.
Yeah, exactly. So you want to you want to run and say.
Yes. It's natural.
But okay, you can just, if you have to open it up, you can.
Oh, it's lovely.
We haven't trimmed off the page numbers. Everything is looking good there. Yeah.
It's really a great feeling.
So let that bond, and off you go to the next one.
Okay, 6 minutes left.
Okay, Bethel, here we are. We've just been making a book, and we're outside the church where you're a pastor. And I've been doing a lot of talking, so I'd like to hear a little bit of your story and a little bit of your life. So, and maybe a poem or two, if you would oblige us.
Definitely. Well, like you just said, I have my hands in different pies. A pastor, and I've been training people as well in the Bible school here, and writing as well. But my writing, I'm beginning to actually infuse a great deal of attention into it, particularly poetry and motivational materials as well. And I focus entirely on the issues that actually enable individuals to circumvent the challenges of life, because I do know that life brings a whole lot of junk your way, and sometimes if you don't have the requisite energy, enough fortitude to circumvent them, you might get drowned in the ocean that you actually find yourself entangled in. And so these are my entire focus. The subject matter runs litmus in my entire writing. So basically, I've been shaped by a whole lot of things. I've been shaped by individuals right from high school, shaped by circumstances, shaped by educational acquisition. All of that are basically the ingredients that makes me who I am. And I believe that the time has actually come for me to pour back into people, to start shaping people as well, because it's one thing for you to be shaped and for you